Good evening. You're watching the late news on HKIBC. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Here's a look at our top stories tonight. The property market and home buyers breathe a sigh of relief as commercial banks keep their prime rate unchanged. Candidates hoping to go to university have to follow strict COVID rules for their written exams. And tickets for long-haul trips on the high-speed rail go on sale. Hong Kong's major commercial banks have kept their prime rates unchanged, a move that was welcomed by the property sector and home buyers. The lender's decision came after the city's de facto central bank raised its base rate by a quarter point, following the same increase by the U.S. Federal Reserve. Chloe Feng reports.
The U.S. Federal Reserve underlined its commitment to stem runaway inflation by raising interest rates at its 9th straight meeting. It pushed the federal funds rate by a quarter of a percentage point to a range of between 4.75% and 5%, the highest level since 2007. The increase came despite calls for a pause after 3 banks in the United States and Europe collapsed over a 10-day period. Local strategists welcomed the fast balancing act.
I think it's the best decision compared to half a percentage point increase or a pause. If they choose to pause now, then it may actually trigger panic selling in risky markets. But on the other hand, if they insist on the half percentage point increase, then they may overshoot and they may drive the U.S. economy into a recession.
In reaction to the fast move, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority increased its base rate by a quarter point to 5.25%. But for the second time in a row, local commercial banks decided to not follow suit and kept their prime rate unchanged. HSBC said it would maintain its prime lending rate steady at 5.625%, with its subsidiary Hang Seng Bank following in its footsteps. Standard Chartered's rate remains steady at 5.875%. Analysts said this could signal the end of rising interest rates by Hong Kong's commercial banks, a move which would come as a relief to home buyers. But monetary authorities warn people to stay cautious and be aware of the rate volatility and the risks of loans. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
CLP Power has lost a bid to drop a claim against it following a blackout last year. It took over 10 hours before power supplies returned to normal in Yuen Long, Tin Shui Wai and Tuen Mun after an electric cable caught fire last June. One affected resident approached the Small Claims Tribunal to seek over $6,500 after food stored in his refrigerator was spoiled. CLP said the claim was unreasonable and lacked a legal and factual basis. But Deputy Adjudicator Avery Chan rebutted the argument, saying CLP is the only electricity supplier in the region. The case was adjourned to August. The city has returned to normality, but students sitting for the university entrance exam next month will have to follow strict anti-COVID rules. They have to be masked during the tests, while those who are infected may have to travel to Sang Po Kong for the exam. Joanna Ho reports.
Students sitting for the Diploma of Secondary Education written exams starting next month have to fulfill 3 requirements to avoid COVID infection. They have to wear a mask during all exams. They have to complete a health declaration to confirm they do not have a fever or symptoms of acute respiratory diseases. And they must check their body temperature if they feel ill before heading to the exam center. Those with a temperature of above 38 degrees must undergo an RAT test. If it's negative, the candidate has to take a photo of the result with a testing date written on it and submit the information as proof to staff at a temperature check station. If they test positive, they can choose to apply for an assessment of their exam results by the Examinations and Assessment Authority or call a hotline by 7:30 a.m. that day so they can do the test at a designated center, Cognitio College's former campus in Sang Po Kong. School examinations and assessment head Kenneth Chu said there may be flexible arrangements for students who only realize they are infected after arriving at the exam centers. The authority will discuss with the Sampo Kong Center to see if the start time of the exam could be postponed slightly, Chu said. Infected candidates whose exams are at a later date can also apply for relocation by contacting the authorities and providing documentary evidence. Meanwhile, this year will be the last that liberal studies will be a DSE exam subject. But students who underperform will not be able to take another test. Instead, they can sit for the citizenship and social development subject, which is similar to liberal studies. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
The Transport Commissioner has offered a simple solution for motorists puzzled by the new toll charging scheme: go to work early and finish late. Rosanna Law suggested those who wish to avoid hefty cross-harbor tolls to leave home before 7:30 a.m. and only return after 7 p.m. She was referring to a proposed rush hour surcharge for the 3 cross-harbor links. The scheme, which includes incremental toll increases every few minutes, has been slammed as confusing. Law admitted she has no idea how much time commuters can actually save under the plan scheduled later this year. Many travelers who flocked to West Kowloon Station to buy tickets for long-haul trips to the mainland have expressed disappointment with the arrangements. There were long queues at the station today ahead of the resumption of all high-speed rail services next Saturday. Crowds flocked to West Kowloon Station early this morning as the high-speed rail began selling tickets for long-haul destinations on the mainland. Queues began forming at the ticketing counters at 6 a.m. for travelers booking journeys to destinations outside Guangdong, including Beijing, Shanghai, and Hangzhou. Many planned to travel during the Qingming Festival and Easter holidays in early April. But the daily quota of 1,500 was snapped up by 11 a.m. Even those who obtained a slot had to wait several hours at the counter before finally securing a ticket. This woman said she queued for 2.5 hours before resorting to a self-ticketing machine as it was quicker. Apart from queuing at the station, travelers can order tickets online, but they can only book for up to 15 days before departure. Full service on the high-speed rail resumes next Saturday, with passengers able to travel to 66 destinations on the mainland. Hong Kong can expect 4 to 7 tropical cyclones and a sizzling summer this year, according to the observatory.
We can conclude that it's going to be among the top 10 years with the highest temperature. But then the actual number of very hot days still is going to vary year to year. Basically, the temperature is rising, and also the number of very hot days is going to rise.
On top of the very hot weather warning, a new extremely hot alert will be added. It will be issued when the temperature hits 35 degrees Celsius at the observatory's headquarters in Tsim Sha Tsui or in the New Territories. Chan, who became director earlier this month, said the number of tropical cyclones expected this year is within the normal range. The People's Liberation Army says it chased away a U.S. warship that illegally entered its waters around the Shisha Islands in the South China Sea. China branded the action by the guided missile destroyer USS Milius as a threat to peace and stability in the region. Mainland ships and planes monitored the movement of the Milius and warned it to sail away. The U.S. Navy said its ship was conducting routine operations and denied that it was ordered to leave. Taiwan is recalling its ambassador to Honduras as the Central American state prepares to switch diplomatic ties to China. This comes as Honduran Foreign Minister Eduardo Enrique Rina heads to Beijing on a landmark visit to herald in a new era for his country. It adds to China's growing relationship with Latin America, a region where most nations have signed on to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Honduras said it's negotiating with China to build a hydroelectric dam, part of a 3-dam project in which Beijing has already invested nearly $300 million. The development comes ahead of next week's visit by Taiwan leader Tsai Ing-wen to Guatemala and Belize, 2 of her few remaining allies. The United Nations says 1 out of every 4 people on Earth does not have access to safe drinking water. The world body disclosed the grim statistic as it convened a water conference to accelerate global cooperation. Azam Khan reports.
Water. It supports all aspects of life on Earth.
Water is a human right and the common development denominator to shape a better future. But water is in deep trouble.
At the first United Nations Conference on Water in nearly half a century, leaders and experts gathered in New York to chart the course on cooperation on various facets.
A 2022 study by the University of California, Los Angeles estimated that almost half of the world's population will suffer severe water stress by 2030. In so many places, water scarcity has gotten even more extreme, especially in conflict zones and locales hardest hit by the climate crisis. We really are headed in the wrong direction.
Pope Francis said he hopes that the UN discussions will spur initiatives to help those who suffer from the scarcity of water. Demonstrators in Chile, meanwhile, marched to draw attention to their plight on World Water Day. They say the privatization of water has raised charges for the less well-off as multinational companies seek to boost profits. With a drought in Spain's northeast worsening, the experts in New York are also studying the impact of climate change on water supply. The drought is threatening access to drinking water for 6 million people in Barcelona. Azam Khan, HKIBC.
Muslims around the world have marked the start of Ramadan, the holiest month in the Islamic calendar. In the occupied West Bank, Palestinians cheered as the crescent moon lantern illumination ushered in Ramadan. Daily fasting, prayers, and spiritual reflection are observed from dusk to dawn for the nearly 2 billion Muslims around the globe. Prayers were offered at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa compound and the Grand Mosque in the Indonesian capital, Jakarta. Ramadan ends with the Eid celebrations following the sighting of the new moon. A cautious rate hike by the U.S. Federal Reserve has led to a surge in Hong Kong stock prices. The Hang Seng Index closed 2.3% higher, with investor confidence also boosted by better-than-average corporate earnings. Shipping giant OOIL posted record profits for last year and was one of the biggest gainers at 16.5%. Expanded profit margins across several businesses, fueled by new game launches, saw Tencent soar 8.2%. A new gaming tablet set the counters rolling for Lenovo Group, which closed 11.4% higher. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 458 points. Top 10 active stocks. Tencent gained $28.40. Alibaba gained $3.35. JD.com gained $5.90. Xiaomi gained 82 cents. Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, euro at 8.54, British pound at 9.66, and the Australian dollar at 5.27. And the London FTSE is currently down 67 points. On to the weather now. Cloudy with a few showers and 1 or 2 bursts of thunderstorms later. Temperatures will range between 24 and 27 degrees. More of the same through the weekend. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. And that's our main news for Thursday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Good night.